So I think I should be recording now. Okay, thank you very much for coming. David Orban, who is one of the officers of the Singularity University, will give us a presentation about the Singularity University. Over to you, David.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. I am very glad to be here with you. I cannot say tonight or this afternoon or maybe this morning, since this immersive environment is a global meeting place which doesn't have any regard for time zones. I would like to jump straight away into our presentation. We have quite a few slides to go through, and I would also like to leave you time for questions. My name is David Orban, and I'm advisor to the Singularity University. I'm quite easily reachable, so if it happens that you haven't been able and asked the questions that you wanted today, please don't hesitate to get back to me by email or on Twitter or anything that Google tells you about me in the future. Singularity University is sponsored by very important organizations. It has the financial help of Google, Autodesk, ePlanet Ventures, and it is hosted by NASA on the Moffett Field campus. And it is an interdisciplinary institution in Silicon Valley that attracts the top graduate and postgraduate students and C-level executives on the executive program from all over the world in two programs that we will see together in more detail. One of these is called the Graduate Studies Program, and it lasts for 10 weeks during the summer. And the other is the Executive Program, which is a 10-day program. So what is the mission of the Singularity University? It wants to assemble, educate, and inspire people who understand how exponential technologies can be used to address those challenges that await humanity or which are already impacting humanity. These people are trained at Singularity University to become the leaders of the future in their own fields, in their own specialties, but with a very, very concrete interdisciplinary understanding, because we believe that silos of knowledge won't be an adequate solution for these challenges in the future, as they are not an adequate solution to these problems now. I want to take a couple of minutes to illustrate the power of exponentials. Many of you will be familiar with this, but since we are recording and this video will be online for viewers of all backgrounds, it is worth spending time to illustrate the very, very powerful difference between an exponential trend and a linear trend. During our biological evolution, the human animal has very well adapted in understanding how things change. However, this understanding is that of a linear type. When we see something move, when we want to catch a prey, when we walk or run, all the environment around us is of this kind. The overwhelming power of exponential change at the beginning surprises us because it can be actually slower in the build-up than a normal linear curve growing in a steady fashion very predictably. But then when a crossover occurs and the linear curve keeps growing in a tranquil fashion, but the exponential takes over and kind of explodes, we are also surprised and overwhelmed by this. One of the best examples of exponential change is the decoding of the human genome, which happened around the year 2000. And having been started quite a few years before as a 15-year project, after having spent half of the time, um, 7 years, and having only reached between 1 and 2% of the goal of decoding the entire human genome, many people were predicting that the whole project would fail. These people didn't understand that already the achievement of 1 and 2% came through progressive doublings, year after year of doubling the information achieved. And these people didn't understand that when you double 2 from 4 to 8 to 16, 32, 64, and then in a final step, not even needing to go to 128, well, in an additional 7 years, you will actually reach your goal of 100%. And that is what happened with the Human Genome Project. Now, we are accustomed to seeing these trends in our computers, where we are actually surprised when 1 year or a given season, one computer maker or the other doesn't announce astounding advances in the power of the machines that we want to buy or the gizmos that they want to sell us. And what we call today Moore's law, that originally referred only to a specific type of integrated circuit and its transistor density increase, well, you can collect all different types of data points coming from various technologies, and they all show this exponential trend. However, information technology is not the only one that is fundamentally impacted by exponentials. Something that is extremely relevant to our life today, and it will be even more relevant in the near future, is the production of energy from sustainable sources, such as solar light. And on this slide, you can see how photovoltaic production is also following an exponential increase, which has been going on for many, many, many years, almost invisibly under the radar, as they used to say. And now it has become very visible, and this doubling of megawatts available produced from photovoltaic sources is not stopping. It's increasing progressively until it potentially becomes a major, if not the major, source of energy for humanity. Now, this is the basis that drives Singularity University. It is the fundamental understanding of the power of exponential technologies and the need of understanding them in an interdisciplinary fashion. However, Singularity University is not only about this knowledge, it is also about immersing students together with the faculty, the advisors, in a very unique experience. We have excellent track chairs who are available through the programs for very, very extended hours for the students to interact with. We have Nobel Prize winning scientists, leaders of their fields, people who have contributed fundamentally to the development of their respective technological or financial fields. You see some names here. Now, The programs are designed to attract, as we said, the top talent, uh, the excellence that we seek. And in the 2009 graduate studies program, we received over 1,200 applications for the 40 seats available. In 2010, this summer, Singularity University will host double the number of students, 80 students, for 1,600 applications received. And in 2011, this number will increase again to 120 students. Now, those of you who are alert will notice that the increase in the number of students is linear, is unfortunately not itself exponential. And this is certainly an issue. We want Singularity University to reach a wider and wider number of potential students. We know that there is excellence all around the planet, and the model that we use today cannot scale beyond a certain number of students. Um, we want from the applicants the best, and they are selected based on three criteria. Their um, educational record. We want them to be at the top in their field, at the university, in their specialty. We want people who have leadership skills, who have entrepreneurial passion, who have either founded companies already or led research projects or organizations, who can strive in the complex social environment that a modern organization requires. And the third of these criteria is very specific to us. We want the students to be passionate about the human condition, about how to um, contribute to the betterment of humankind, how to solve um, the grand challenges that are facing humanity on a planetary scale. Uh, the students from last year were excellent, and actually they were exposed to kind of a beta cycle. We were very honored to be able and actually receive their feedback and learn from them how to make Singularity University even better for the next year, which is now about to start in a few weeks. The tracks that we cover are uh, multifold. They cover really a whole gamut of human knowledge, starting from the understanding of how history develops and how you can study the future and apply forecasting. What is the framework for working within the rules and evolving these rules to face what technology brings us, policy, laws, and ethics? Uh, what are the resources in monetary terms and how to best um, acquire, nurture, and develop them, finance and entrepreneurship? Um, the very basis of understanding the current paradigm for our world, networks and computing systems, bits and atoms. In the biotechnology and bioinformatics track, this approach is actually generalized, where we try and understand the living systems, which today are often interpreted in terms of networks themselves. Nanotechnology, which aims to redefine the way through which we design and develop um, our systems. Medicine, neuroscience, and human enhancement are is the track that pulls many of these other technologies together, focusing on the human condition. AI and robotics, study how our systems can develop in the future to become more and more useful and potentially autonomous in their decision making. Energy, of course, is the basis of everything we do, as well as the understanding that the human civilization is part of an entire ecological system, which itself is contained in space. And Singularity University is hosted at NASA, not as a coincidence, but through a profound understanding that part of the human destiny is in space itself. So as we move through the course, we really want to let the students understand and participate in what we call an innovation engine. We want them to feel empowered in learning about these subjects, not in the abstract, but through a very concrete understanding of what their opportunities are in applying the things that they learn through site visits with leading laboratories and forming teams that will study a given set of specialties and interest areas that at the end of the course should result in actionable results. Research organizations, business plans, startups, reports on grand challenges that can impact more than 1 billion people within the next 10 years. This is what we call 10 to the 9th plus. Design a product or a service that will change the lives positively of 1 billion people or more 10 years by leveraging accelerating technologies. So this is actually what happened last year, where 4 different startups were born at the end of the graduate studies program, and we were very proud of them. They are developing as we speak, becoming more and more visible as they present at O'Reilly conferences, find partnerships. Next month, one of the startups is going to be at the Harvard University at H+ Summit, and this is one of the tangible results of what Singularity University teaches its students. So thank you very much. This was my presentation, and I would like to uh, welcome your questions. And talk to you about uh, anything that you might be curious about and I didn't cover in this brief
Thanks,
presentation.
David. I have a question. I mean, this is a lot of money, 25,000 euros, dollars. What makes the students pay it? I mean, they obviously see value in it. What's the value? What do they say?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Um, so the application enables the students to say whether they are ready to pay or they are not ready to pay and request partial or full scholarships. And in 2009, about half of the students actually came to Singularity University on a scholarship, which means that they paid less than the $25,000 or they didn't even pay anything.
Hmm.
Those who did pay um, believe that there is much more to the experience than not watching the YouTube videos, which is already possible. All the courses, all the lectures of Singularity University are recorded on these wonderful high definition videos that you have just seen. And on the Singularity U YouTube channel, there are now something like a dozen hours of lectures from world leading experts. However, being there is still something very, very different. Also, um, for many people around the world, the Silicon Valley experience itself is something that is unique and cannot be repeated anywhere else in the planet. Breathing, experiencing, sharing, uh, being able to ask questions, going out to parties during the weekend, driving up in half an hour to Google, Facebook, Twitter, the IBM Material Sciences offices, or robotics laboratories. These are all things that are only possible in the Silicon Valley. And that is also what people attending believe is part of the value.
Thank you.
David, I would also like to ask a question about the deployment of Singularity University here in Europe. I understand, since you told me once, that Silicon Valley is such a unique place that is nearly impossible to find the equivalent for Europe. So what are you guys planning for this side of the ocean?
Um, at the moment, there is nothing that we are ready to announce. There have been some ideas that we have been working on how to help, for example, European universities leveraging their student pools, and on the other hand, receive help from them in the selection process that is extremely time intensive. Every application is analyzed by Singularity University personnel and track chairs, and they are graded and graded and graded again. Um, there has also been outside of Europe in Brazil an experiment with a leading Brazilian business school in trying and establish a relationship that is going to evolve through time with uh, Singularity University managing director Salim Ismail going down um, to Brazil and make presentations. Um, I cannot answer your question because there are just too many variables. And also the complications in Europe are really um, manifold. language variations, geographical dispersion, um, eh, cultural differences as well. Now, of course, one opportunity is that of leveraging the existing content, the videos. Some of them have been captioned, transcribed, and are in the process of being translated for foreign subtitles, not non-English subtitles. So this is an initiative that we welcome anybody to participate in using the .sub platform, which is the same used by the TED conferences, and to use also immersive environments like the one where we find ourselves today. And it is not the next best thing to being there, being together in an immersive environment like this. So I'm sure that we will be experimenting with all of these in order to try and find how the model should evolve and scale better to wider audiences.
Thank you, David. I think Randall has the next question.
I'll try. Can you hear me?
Sure,
Yes,
we can.
Randall, welcome.
Yes. Hi, David. I'm afraid I came in a little bit late, so maybe you've already answered what I'm about to ask, but I was wondering specifically for those students who attend SU, be it through partial scholarship or the paying their whole way, um, if they're coming in and they already have an idea of something they would like to do in an entrepreneurial way, what is it or how is it that SU helps them get started?
Um, Certainly, SU doesn't want to be framed as a mere uh, entryway to meet Silicon Valley venture capital community members or as an incubator. Um, but it is the case that it does cover both of these roles, not as its central mission. However, um, both for the cachet of the organization and for the attractiveness of its courses, the venture capital or the angel community looks at Singularity University very closely. And the teams that form during the graduate studies program have many opportunities for meeting with these people. There is also an extensive amount of coaching. For example, the teams are required to make Ignite style presentations. And for many people who haven't done extensive speaking, being able and expose your subject in a meaningful, impactful manner in 5 minutes in front of 20 slides that advance relentlessly outside of your control, because this is the Ignite model. It's a grueling exercise, and being able and train for it, receiving the coaching of experts about it, and then deliver it in front of your peers and in front of others is just an example of all the skills that the students acquire. Also, um, and unfortunately, of course, this is also a somewhat limited availability. Um, Singularity University becomes a potential incubator for some of the startups that form. So last year's startups, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of them actually are still incubated in the Singularity University facilities. So these are two elements. I would like to stress, however, that even if leadership and entrepreneurial skills are one of the criteria for admission um, at the school, uh, we uh, don't want people to come for this as a jumping board. We do want them to very openly, with all their passion, their hearts, participate in the team exercises, in the team forming moments, rather than just follow their own thing, and then potentially close themselves off from the rest of the group.
Okay, thank you.
I think we have now a question from Carlos in the audience. He would like to know what Singularity University is doing to reduce the future shock that many people on the planet may suffer over the next decades as a result of the deployment of very futuristic technologies. Here is Carlos on the screen.
Sure, and thank you very much for that question. It is very important. Um, we don't know if we have all the answers to this. Um, One of the founders of Singularity University is Ray Kurzweil. The futurist famous for his books, for his inventions. His latest book is The Singularity is Near. Now he is finishing a new book about the brain and the mind and how to build one. Is going to be the subtitle of the book. And the other co-founders of Singularity University is Peter Diamandis, who with the X Prize Foundation and the Ansari X Prize that made the whole model very famous all over the planet, uh, has very extensively tried and largely succeeded in innovating the engine of innovation itself through exciting contests that multiply 10, 100, and 1,000-fold the resources that would otherwise be available for attacking very specific, very well-defined problems. So these two individuals and the Singularity University management and advisors are certainly extremely aware of how important it is to make sure that technology is perceived as a positive factor um, in the solution of humanity's problems. There are many people who um, feel disillusioned and turn to supposed alternatives. The scientific method, um, reason, and application of our knowledge, technology, are the solution for our problems. If there are alternatives, these alternatives haven't proven themselves to be viable. Now, as technology advances, a certain level of shock is possibly unavoidable. However, we have seen um, very recently, even in the past couple of decades or one decade, how quickly people can adapt. Sometimes we underestimate the adaptability of individuals. Uh, the technology that I'm referring to, for example, is that of the mobile phone, of which we have seen the latest examples in the smartphones of these years, which have literally exploded on the scene and which provide an unparalleled ease of use through um, innovative user interfaces that make extremely advanced technologies, extremely advanced knowledge readily accessible to everybody. And this is also the power of exponentials. Another criticism or objection towards the application of leading edge technologies is that apparently this is an elitist approach because there will be always people who, for example, cannot afford the latest cures. Or there will be always methods of transportations like the exciting opportunities for the ultra rich to be a space tourist that are not democratic enough. People evidently think that if not everybody can go to space, then nobody should go to space. Well, we don't believe that would be the right approach. One of the reasons is because through application and through the experimentation that voluntarily and with enormous risk taking some individuals are ready to undertake, the same technologies that have been extremely expensive a few years before become less expensive, then affordable, and finally dirt cheap. And this is going to be the case in the future too. And we believe that humans will be able and adapt quite well.
Thank you very much, David. Let's see if anyone wants to ask one last question. Yes, Carlos here says thank you very much for this explanation.
Okay. I saw a gentleman with a tie. Um, his nickname is Whopperseb,
That's Carlos.
typing something. All right, so he was just thanking me. Well, thank you, Carlos, for the question. Well, Eugene, I think that you are asking a variation of a question that Giulio asked before. The question is written, and I want to repeat it on via reading it out loud, is from Eugene Lytle. What's the concrete plan with the European Singularity University branch? And the answer is, as of today, there is no concrete plan. As of today, we are not ready to announce a plan. There are just too many variables that are still to be considered. In the future, this might change, but probably this change won't come before the graduate studies program is over. So it's not that during the summer we will announce something in Europe. So there is a follow-up question from Rolf Lippold, who says that in Italy there is already a branch. That is not correct. What you are referring to, at least today as we speak, Rolf, is a student group. The students accepted at the Graduate Studies Program 2010 from Italy formed a group, and they are popularizing Singularity University as volunteers, and they are offering their knowledge, which they are potentially acquiring during the summer, to other people, to corporations, enterprises, organizations, universities in Italy after they come back. So the website that you saw is referring to this independent initiative that the Italian students have undertaken. Giulio, I didn't catch a couple of lines that went by. If you could kindly read them out to me, if there were any questions that I should answer.
I think this was kind of the last one, but let's have a look at the text chat log. Well, Tish, you don't want to read it yourself, Tish? Or you don't have a microphone or a cam?
Okay, so
right,
I see more
she's
questions
saying,
coming in. Let me
I'm going to
write.
read
Sorry.
it for her. I think I have a scrolling problem. I have to hold the mouse. She says, thank you, David. I would also like to invite I'd also like to invite everyone here to attend the augmented reality event on June 2nd and 3rd in California, and she's giving a link for the very interesting schedule of the event. Looks like a very interesting thing. I'm certainly going to attend. She doesn't have a microphone. She's in a noisy environment. It's not yet party time in New York, Tish, is it? Anyway, noisy environment
Okay,
can be somewhere else.
I saw another question that I want to read out loud. Is Singularity University willing to assist college transhumanist organizations? So that is coming from nickname Model Cadet. You are welcome to refer to another organization with regards to this opportunity, which is Humanity Plus. Humanity Plus is the new name of the World Transhumanist Organization, and certainly it will welcome your contact in order to see how your initiative can gain visibility. There is also a question from Randall. What is more important to Singularity University? Supporting the right students, even if full scholarships are needed, or reaching a certain level of funding through tuition? This is a very specific financial question regarding the structure of how Singularity University finances itself. Singularity University is a non-profit 501c3 organization, and it receives the support of its sponsors. So certainly the level of scholarships that it can extend depends on the level of sponsorships of corporate donors. During these years of financial crisis, um, there have been some corporate donors, potential donors, who have not been able and complete their desired level of support for Singularity University. We certainly hope that this can change and quickly. Um, so to answer your question, it is important to maximize the quality of the students. We also want to reach out to geographical areas that are historically less well served in high quality educational opportunities. So for example, during the graduate studies program 2010, several scholarships have been given for to applicants from Africa and South America. And some of the students, like the excellent Italian candidates, have been very candidly told that if they need financial support, they should actually show their leadership and entrepreneurial skills by finding the sponsor themselves. So the Italian students evidently took this very seriously, because part of the reasons for their initiative and their energy comes from this desire to find the money to attend without having received full support from the headquarters of Singularity University. So Randall has another question. Do you see a parallel between the early organization of philosophers, scientists forming groups in the Renaissance and what you see now through Humanity Plus, Singularity University, Singularity Summit, local groups of a subset of scientists and sponsors? Uh, This is a fantastic question, and I would love to answer it for probably the next 2 hours. And it does go beyond of what is the mission and the activities of Singularity University. But I want to briefly answer it nonetheless. Yes, it is my personal belief that we are assisting fundamental changes in how science and also engineering can be practiced around the world. The ivory tower approach of elite specialized lifelong careers is over. In many places, universities have fundamental problems of either sustaining themselves financially or attracting the right quality students, or even they realize that they don't necessarily matter in forming opinion and policy the way they have been doing in the past. So many of these organizations represent a challenge to the traditional model of organizing knowledge. And as tools of formal discovery, like for example, Wolfram Alpha, which turns one of the purest disciplines, mathematics, into basically experimental science, or new forms of production like the makers movement of 3D printers, fab labs, tech shops becomes widely recognized and widely applied. This is going to be a true revolution, which is potentially going to be equaling or um, even going beyond the changes that the Renaissance has brought. So the last question is from Rolf Lippold, and the question is, what are the connections between the Singularity University or other institutions? And he quotes the Presencing Institute founded by Otto Scharmer at MIT, or the Society of Organizational Learning founded by Peter Senge. So certainly Singularity University hasn't been born in a vacuum. Both the founders, the management, the advisors of SU are extremely cognizant of what is the intellectual and practical heritage that they owe to other institutions, leaders in America and elsewhere in the world. So there can be many that could be identified as an inspiration. Traditionally, Singularity University singled out one of these, which is the International Space University, also founded by Peter Diamandis. The way Singularity University's model strongly resembles the International Space University, which is now in its 30th year or something like that, very close to that. So if I need to mention one organization, that is the one that I would mention. Thank you very much, everybody. This ends our formal session, and I would once again like to thank all who were present, all those who asked questions, and especially Giulio Prisco for his kind hospitality in this wonderful immersive environment. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, David. That was really a great talk.